The hospital ceiling. Ryan woke up to the sound of a heart monitor. The beeping wasn't even loud, but it stabbed straight through the quiet, steady and merciless, like reality was mocking him for waking up at all. A white ceiling, sterile air, pain blooming sharp behind his ribs. He didn't remember collapsing, just the phone call. His fiancée's voice, his best friend's laughter in the background, their betrayal overlapping like a knife twisting between his ribs. Then darkness took him. Now he was here, weak, alone, forgotten. Ryan tried to sit up, but dizziness crashed into him so hard he nearly choked. "Don't move." The voice wasn't gentle, it was deep, controlled. The kind of voice that didn't need to raise volume to be obeyed. Ryan turned his head and froze. A man stood at the foot of his bed, tall, broad shoulders, black suit, eyes sharp enough to cut through lies and bone, presence heavy enough to silence the entire world. Aries Voltor, CEO of Voltor Holdings, one of the youngest, richest alphas in the country, feared, respected, untouchable. Ryan blinked, confused. Why would someone like him be here? "Do I know you?" Ryan whispered. "No," Aries said, stepping closer, "but your fiancé works, or worked, under me." The past tense hit harder than Ryan expected. "What happened to him?" Ryan asked, throat tight. Aries' jaw clenched once. That was the only sign of emotion. "He betrayed my company," Aries said quietly, "and he betrayed you." The words were simple, but the weight behind them was heavy enough to crush. Ryan's chest tightened. He lowered his gaze, shame burning under his skin. He didn't want pity, especially not from an alpha like this, especially not from a stranger. "I don't need sympathy," Ryan forced out. Aries' reply was immediate. "I'm not here to give you sympathy." Aries stepped closer until he stood right beside the bed. Ryan could feel the heat of the alpha's aura pressing against his skin, steady, overwhelming, dangerous. "You collapsed because of stress. Your body gave out." Ryan looked away, cheeks burning. "Don't say it like I'm weak." "You are," Aries said, "right now." Ryan flinched, but Aries continued, voice low, almost cruel, "And you're alone." Those words hurt more than they should have. Ryan swallowed hard. "I'm not completely alone." "Your family?" Aries asked. Ryan went silent. Aries already knew the answer. "They lost everything because of the man who cheated on you." Ryan's throat went dry. Aries' eyes darkened. "He took money meant for your family. He used your trust, and when he was done," Aries' voice sharpened, "he threw you away." Ryan closed his eyes. Every word was a blade cutting open wounds he was trying so hard to hide. "How do you even know all this?" Ryan whispered. "Because your fiancé betrayed me too," Aries said coldly, "and I always investigate my enemies." Ryan stiffened. Enemies? That word didn't belong to him. It belonged to the one who betrayed him. Aries took one step closer, lowering his voice. "You were loyal. They weren't." Ryan's breath hitched, because the way Aries said "you" made his pulse jump. Then Aries leaned slightly forward. "You were wronged, and I don't tolerate injustice done to what should be mine." Ryan's heart stopped. Mine? No alpha had ever spoken like that, not even his fiancée. Aries straightened, eyes unreadable. "I came here because I owe your fiancé nothing, and because you have no one left." Ryan swallowed hard. "What do you want from me?" Aries didn't answer immediately. He simply watched Ryan, like he was evaluating him, measuring him, deciding something. Then he said, "Stand."
Ryan blinked. Why? Stand, Ares repeated, if you can. Ryan tried. His legs shook the moment he put weight on them. He gasped, nearly falling forward. Ares caught him, one arm around his waist, strong, hot, steady. Ryan sucked in a breath as the alpha scent surrounded him, dark, cool, addictive, like a storm trapped under skin. Ares didn't let go. If I hadn't been here, Ares murmured, you would have fallen again. Ryan didn't know what to say. He didn't know why this alpha cared at all. Then Ares said, you need protection. Ares led Ryan back to the bed, guiding him with firm, careful hands. Ryan felt small in front of him, but not weak, more like dangerous things would stop if this man told them to. Ares sat down in the chair beside the bed, crossing one leg over the other. He looked elegant and terrifying at the same time. I'll make it simple, Ares said. I want to destroy the man who betrayed both of us. Ryan froze. I don't want revenge, he lied. Everyone wants revenge, Ares replied, even if they're too kind to admit it. Ryan's breath trembled. Because it was true. Ares studied him for a long moment. Then he took out a folder. A contract. Ryan stared. What is this? A marriage contract. Ryan's blood turned cold. What? You need protection, Ares repeated. Your family needs financial stability, and I need an omega. Ryan's heart pounded. Why him? Why now? Why this alpha? Ares leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. I'll leave you alone, Ares said. I won't lie to you. I want you for a reason. Ryan's voice cracked. What reason? Ares' eyes locked onto his. Because your fiancé thought he could touch what never was his. A pause, a breath, a storm. And I take great pleasure in correcting mistakes. Ryan's pulse jumped painfully. You're saying this is revenge? No, Ares said softly. This is reclamation. Ryan shook his head. You don't even know me. Ares tilted his head slightly. But I will. Ryan's breath stuttered. Ares stood, towering over him. His voice dropped to a low, possessive rumble. You will sign the contract. You will come to my home. And once you enter my house, he leaned closer, lips near Ryan's ear. You are mine. Ryan's entire body shivered, not from fear, but from the sudden, terrifying pull this alpha had on him. Ares, Ryan whispered. Ares stepped back, expression unreadable. You have 24 hours to decide. Ryan swallowed. And if I say no? Ares turned away, placing one hand on the door. Then your family loses everything, and your enemies win. He paused, then looked over his shoulder, eyes dark with something that felt like hunger. But if you say yes, his voice softened into something dangerous. I will protect you, claim you, and destroy anyone who ever hurt you. Ryan's breath caught. He didn't know this man, but he knew one thing. Ares Voltor didn't make empty promises, and he never lost. The room was quiet after Ares left. Ryan stared at the contract on the table. His hands trembled, not from fear, from the weight of everything that had happened. His family, his heartbreak, his betrayal, his loneliness, and the alpha who walked into his life like a storm, claiming what the world threw away. Ryan closed his eyes. He wasn't choosing love or safety or comfort. He was choosing survival. And maybe a part of him was choosing Ares. He picked up the pen and signed.
The hospital ceiling. Ryan woke up to the sound of a heart monitor. The beeping wasn't even loud, but it stabbed straight through the quiet, steady and merciless, like reality was mocking him for waking up at all. A white ceiling, sterile air, pain blooming sharp behind his ribs. He didn't remember collapsing. Just the phone call, his fiancée's voice, his best friend's laughter in the background, their betrayal overlapping like a knife twisting between his ribs. Then darkness took him. Now he was here, weak, alone, forgotten. Ryan tried to sit up, but dizziness crashed into him so hard he nearly choked. "Don't move." The voice wasn't gentle. It was deep, controlled, the kind of voice that didn't need to raise volume to be obeyed. Ryan turned his head and froze. A man stood at the foot of his bed, tall, broad shoulders, black suit, eyes sharp enough to cut through lies and bone, presence heavy enough to silence the entire world. Ares Voltor, CEO of Voltor Holdings, one of the youngest, richest alphas in the country, feared, respected, untouchable. Ryan blinked, confused. Why would someone like him be here? "Do I know you?" Ryan whispered. "No," Ares said, stepping closer, "but your fiancé works, or worked, under me." The past tense hit harder than Ryan expected. "What happened to him?" Ryan asked, throat tight. Ares' jaw clenched once. That was the only sign of emotion. "He betrayed my company," Ares said quietly, "and he betrayed you." The words were simple, but the weight behind them was heavy enough to crush. Ryan's chest tightened. He lowered his gaze, shame burning under his skin. He didn't want pity, especially not from an alpha like this, especially not from a stranger. "I don't need sympathy," Ryan forced out. Ares' reply was immediate. "I'm not here to give you sympathy." Ares stepped closer until he stood right beside the bed. Ryan could feel the heat of the alpha's aura pressing against his skin, steady, overwhelming, dangerous. "You collapsed because of stress. Your body gave out." Ryan looked away, cheeks burning. "Don't say it like I'm weak." "You are," Ares said, "right now." Ryan flinched, but Ares continued, voice low, almost cruel. "And you're alone." Those words hurt more than they should have. Ryan swallowed hard. "I'm not completely alone." "Your family?" Ares asked. Ryan went silent. Ares already knew the answer. "They lost everything because of the man who cheated on you." Ryan's throat went dry. Ares' eyes darkened. "He took money meant for your family. He used your trust, and when he was done," Ares' voice sharpened, "he threw you away." Ryan closed his eyes. Every word was a blade cutting open wounds he was trying so hard to hide. "How do you even know all this?" Ryan whispered. "Because your fiancé betrayed me too," Ares said coldly, "and I always investigate my enemies." Ryan stiffened. Enemies? That word didn't belong to him. It belonged to the one who betrayed him. Ares took one step closer, lowering his voice. "You were loyal. They weren't." Ryan's breath hitched, because the way Ares said "you" made his pulse jump. Then Ares leaned slightly forward. "You were wronged, and I don't tolerate injustice done to what should be mine." Ryan's heart stopped. Mine? No alpha had ever spoken like that, not even his fiancée. Ares straightened, eyes unreadable. "I came here because I owe your fiancé nothing, and because you have no one left." Ryan swallowed hard. "What do you want from me?" Ares didn't answer immediately. He simply watched Ryan, like he was evaluating him, measuring him, deciding something. Then he said, "Stand." Ryan blinked. "Why?" "Stand," Ares repeated, "if you can." Ryan tried. His legs shook the moment he put weight on them. He gasped, nearly falling forward. Ares caught him, one arm around his waist, strong, hot, steady. Ryan sucked in a breath as the alpha scent surrounded him, dark, cool,
addictive, like a storm trapped under skin. Ares didn't let go. "If I hadn't been here," Ares murmured, "you would have fallen again." Ryan didn't know what to say. He didn't know why this alpha cared at all. Then Ares said, "You need protection." Ares led Ryan back to the bed, guiding him with firm, careful hands. Ryan felt small in front of him, but not weak, more like dangerous things would stop if this man told them to. Ares sat down in the chair beside the bed, crossing one leg over the other. He looked elegant and terrifying at the same time. "I'll make it simple," Ares said. "I want to destroy the man who betrayed both of us." Ryan froze. "I don't want revenge," he lied. "Everyone wants revenge," Ares replied, "even if they're too kind to admit it." Ryan's breath trembled. Because it was true. Ares studied him for a long moment. Then he took out a folder. A contract. Ryan stared. "What is this?" "A marriage contract." Ryan's blood turned cold. "What?" "You need protection," Ares repeated. "Your family needs financial stability, and I need an omega." Ryan's heart pounded. Why him? Why now? Why this alpha? Ares leaned forward, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. "I'll leave you alone," Ares said. "I won't lie to you. I want you for a reason." Ryan's voice cracked. "What reason?" Ares' eyes locked onto his. "Because your fiancé thought he could touch what never was his." A pause, a breath, a storm. "And I take great pleasure in correcting mistakes." Ryan's pulse jumped painfully. "You're saying this is revenge?" "No," Ares said softly. "This is reclamation." Ryan shook his head. "You don't even know me." Ares tilted his head slightly. "But I will." Ryan's breath stuttered. Ares stood, towering over him. His voice dropped to a low, possessive rumble. "You will sign the contract. You will come to my home. And once you enter my house," he leaned closer, lips near Ryan's ear, "you are mine." Ryan's entire body shivered, not from fear, but from the sudden, terrifying pull this alpha had on him. "Ares," Ryan whispered. Ares stepped back, expression unreadable. "You have 24 hours to decide." Ryan swallowed. "And if I say no?" Ares turned away, placing one hand on the door. "Then your family loses everything, and your enemies win." He paused, then looked over his shoulder, eyes dark with something that felt like hunger. "But if you say yes," his voice softened into something dangerous, "I will protect you, claim you, and destroy anyone who ever hurt you." Ryan's breath caught. He didn't know this man, but he knew one thing. Ares Voltor didn't make empty promises, and he never lost. The room was quiet after Ares left. Ryan stared at the contract on the table. His hands trembled. Not from fear, from the weight of everything that had happened. His family, his heartbreak, his betrayal, his loneliness, and the alpha who walked into his life like a storm, claiming what the world threw away. Ryan closed his eyes. He wasn't choosing love or safety or comfort. He was choosing survival. And maybe a part of him was choosing Ares. He picked up the pen and signed. The house was too big for silence. Rion could hear every sound, the muffled hum of distant lights, the faint shift in temperature from the air system, the soft thud of his own heartbeat, still unsettled from the day's chaos. Behind him, the corridors stretched endlessly, polished floors reflecting the faint glow of the chandeliers. Ahead of him, Ares walked with quiet, controlled steps, his presence filling the hallway like something solid and unshakable. Rion followed because he had nowhere else to go, because stepping outside that door meant collapsing alone again, because the world had already taken everything he treasured and crushed it under its heel.
Aries stopped in front of the last room on the right, its double doors tall, carved, and silent. He didn't open it. Instead, he turned, his cold, dark eyes sweeping over Rion as if reading a file, not a face. Except there was something else now, a flicker beneath the surface. Annoyance? Concern? No, not concern, not openly. Ares Valtor was not the type to wear emotions on his face. But something had shifted. "Stay close," he said quietly. Not a command, not a threat, something in between. Rion swallowed. His throat hurt, raw from the hospital dryness. The scent of antiseptic still clung to his skin like a stain. He could still feel the cold hospital bed under his back, the beeping of machines. The memory made his chest tighten. Ares noticed. He always noticed. He pushed the bedroom door open with one hand and stepped aside, not like a gentleman, not like a host, but like an alpha, aware that overwhelming an injured Omega would shatter him. Rion walked past him, trying not to shrink from the weight of Ares' presence. The room inside was dimly lit, warm in a quiet, lonely way. Thick curtains blocked the night outside, soft lamplight spreading a calm amber glow across the bed. Ares watched him take it in. The clean sheets, the blankets folded perfectly, the pillows arranged without a crease. It was clear no one used this room. It felt temporary, silent, like it belonged to a house meant for a man who always slept alone. Rion stood there awkwardly, fingers twisting together, unsure what to do with his hands or his body or the broken pieces inside. Ares shut the door behind them. The click of it closing echoed through the room. Rion's breath faltered. He turned slightly, and in those few seconds, Ares moved closer. Not enough to touch him, but enough for Rion to feel the warmth radiating from his body, the scent of dark woods and something sharper, something undeniably alpha. Then, Ares did the last thing Rion expected. He reached over to the bed, picked up an extra pillow, and placed it carefully between the two sides. A barrier, a boundary, a promise. He didn't look at Rion when he spoke next. "You'll sleep here," Ares said, adjusting the pillow as though it mattered. "It's safer than the guest rooms." Rion blinked. "Safer?" Ares turned to him, meeting his eyes directly, something he didn't do often. "This part of the house is monitored, the others are not." Rion stared at him, confusion knotted with unease. Ares continued, voice calm, factual. "If anyone tries to come near you tonight, I'll know." Rion swallowed, throat tightening. "Why would anyone come near me?" Ares held his gaze for a long moment, his jaw flexed. "And I don't believe they're finished." The room went cold. Rion felt it down his spine. Ares stepped back, not because he wanted distance, but because he was giving Rion space to breathe. It was strange. A man like him, with power dripping off every syllable, should have been terrifying. And maybe he was, but not because he barked orders or forced dominance. He was terrifying because he was gentle. Ares pointed to the bed. "Sleep," he said, softer now. "No one will hurt you here." No one had ever said that to Rion before. Not his family, not his fiancée, not even his best friend. The words hit him harder than any threat ever had. Ares must have seen the way Rion's breath trembled. His eyes softened, not visibly, but in the small way the corners lowered, the tension in his shoulders eased. He moved toward the door. Rion's voice caught unexpectedly. "You're not staying?" Ares turned back. His gaze swept over Rion slowly, taking in the exhaustion, the fragile way he stood there, the hurt he tried so hard to hide. "You don't need me hovering," Ares said. "You need rest." Rion didn't know how to explain it, how the idea of sleeping completely alone in a strange house after everything terrified him, how the silence of the hospital had nearly drowned him already, how betrayal felt louder in quiet rooms.
He didn't have to say it. Aries walked to the lights, dimmed them, and took a step closer, not touching, but close enough that Ryan felt anchored. "If you need me," Aries said quietly, "call." Ryan nodded, but his chest felt tight, a breath stuck somewhere between fear and exhaustion. Aries hesitated a second longer. Then, unexpectedly, he reached out and brushed a stray strand of hair from Ryan's forehead. Not a caress, not dominance, just gentleness. Ryan froze. Aries did too. His hands stopped mid-air, fingers hovering over Ryan's temple as if realizing he'd crossed some invisible line. He pulled back, not abruptly, but slowly, deliberately, as if fighting his own instinct. "Sleep," he said again, voice lower now. "I'll be nearby." He turned to leave. The moment the door cracked open, Ryan felt something tighten inside him. Fear, not of Aries, but of being alone with his thoughts, his memories, the crushing silence. "Aries," he whispered suddenly, without thinking. Aries stopped, instantly. Just stopped. Didn't turn around, didn't speak, just listened.
The guest room was too quiet, too clean, too unfamiliar. Rian lay on the mattress with the blanket pulled to his chest, staring at the ceiling like it might collapse on him. Sleep didn't come. His mind kept circling the same wounds, his fiancée's mouth on someone else, his best friend's hand on his wrist while lying to his face, his parents' cold silence on the phone when he'd begged them for help. It all sat on his chest like a weight he couldn't push off. He closed his eyes. Bad decision. The memories came sharper when it was dark. He tried to breathe, slow and steady, but his breath stuttered halfway in. His throat tightened, his chest squeezed. It felt like drowning in air. The panic rose fast, swallowing everything before he realized what was happening. He sat up abruptly, hands shaking, trying to catch a breath that refused to come. His vision blurred. His heart hammered too loudly, too violently. He pressed a fist to his sternum, trying to force the pain back inside. A soft, broken sound slipped from his throat. Not a scream. He couldn't scream. Omegas raised in fear learned to suffer quietly, but even his silence wasn't enough this time. A footstep in the hallway. Then another. The door swung open with a force that made the walls shiver. Aries stood there, hair tousled, chest rising with sharp alpha breaths, shoulders tight as if expecting danger. His eyes scanned the room once, and then they locked onto Rian, curled on the bed, trembling. He crossed the distance in 3 steps. "Rian." His voice was low, but not cold, not anymore. "Look at me." Rian tried, failed. His chest kept tightening, breath shattering in fragments. He couldn't speak, couldn't steady himself. Aries knelt beside the bed instantly, an alpha kneeling, a powerful man lowering himself without hesitation. He reached out, then froze halfway, his hand hovering near Rian's shoulder without touching. "Can I?" Aries asked, voice controlled but edged with something raw. Rian managed the smallest nod. Aries placed a hand on his back, firm and warm. "Breathe with me," he murmured. "In, slowly, good. Now out." But Rian wasn't in his body anymore. His mind was back in the hallway the day he came home early, his fiancée's moans, the betrayal twisting like a knife, the crushing humiliation. That memory hit him again and again until his breath spiraled out of control. Aries' jaw clenched. He didn't ask what memory Rian was drowning in. He didn't demand an explanation. He simply supported him like he'd done this before. "Stay with me, Rian. Right here, not back there." Still trembling, Rian tried to breathe, but the world kept tilting sideways. Aries stood up abruptly. Rian flinched at the sudden movement, but Aries didn't leave the room. He crossed to the dresser, grabbed a glass of water, came back, and lowered himself beside Rian again. He slipped an arm behind Rian's back to help him sit up. Rian gasped at the touch because Aries was warm, grounding, solid in a way no one had ever been. "Easy," whispered Aries. "Drink." Rian reached for the glass, but his fingers were trembling too violently. The moment he tried to hold it, water spilled down his palm.
Ares caught his wrist. The world froze.
Not because of dominance or fear or alpha instinct, but because of the gentle way Ares held him, like Rion's bones might break if he squeezed too hard. Like he wasn't touching an omega, he was touching something precious. Ares shifted closer, wrapped his larger hand around Rion's shaking one, and lifted the glass to his lips. The moment the cool water hit his tongue, Rion inhaled sharply, breath stuttering again. But slowly, his lungs began to unlock. Ares didn't let go of his wrist, not even when Rion finished drinking, not even when the shaking stopped, not even when Rion finally lifted his head and met his eyes. Ares stared at him like he was trying to memorize the exact shape of his pain. "Panic attack," he said quietly, though it wasn't a question. Rion nodded helplessly. Ares' fingers tightened slightly, just enough to ground him, not enough to scare him. Nothing doesn't make an omega shake like this. Nothing doesn't steal your breath in your sleep. Rion swallowed, throat thick. "It's just everything." Ares leaned closer, close enough that Rion felt the heat of his body, the slow, controlled rise of his chest, the intensity radiating from him like a storm trying to stay contained. "You're safe here," Ares said, softer now. "Your past can't touch you under my roof." Rion should have felt relief. Instead, a tear slipped down his cheek. Ares caught it with his thumb before Rion even realized he was crying. The touch was feather-light, respectful, almost reverent. Rion froze. Ares froze too. Neither of them expected that moment. Neither of them understood why it felt like electricity. Ares pulled his hand back, not because he wanted to, but because he was trying not to take what wasn't offered. "You should sleep," he murmured, voice lower than before. "I'll stay until you do." Rion blinked. "You don't have to." "I know," Ares said, tone firm but quiet. "I'm choosing to." He sat in the chair beside the bed, back straight, eyes fixed on Rion like a silent guardian. He didn't touch him again, but his presence filled the room, warm, heavy, stabilizing. Rion lay down, pulling the blanket closer. His heartbeat still stuttered occasionally, but Ares' gaze was a steady counterweight, anchoring him back into the present. Minutes passed. Then Ares spoke again, softer than moonlight. "No one will hurt you while you're under my name." Rion's breath caught, not in panic this time, but something deeper, something that felt dangerously like trust. He looked at Ares in the dim light, broad shoulders, clenched jaw, eyes burning with a mixture of anger and care he didn't understand. This alpha was dangerous, not because of his strength, not because of his power, not because of his reputation. He was dangerous because when Rion was falling apart, Ares held him together with hands that trembled at the edges with softness, and Rion didn't know how to protect himself from that. Not anymore. Rion didn't remember falling asleep, only the heaviness of exhaustion dragging him under, the faint scent of Ares still lingering in the sheets, clean, cold, distant. He hadn't meant to notice it. He hadn't meant to breathe deeper, but his body was in survival mode, and even the faintest smell of an alpha, especially one who hadn't hurt him yet, felt like a shield. He hated that. He hated that safety had become a stranger. He hated that Ares was the one offering it. It happened close to midnight. The nightmare came first. The betrayal, his ex-fiancée's voice whispering lies, his best friend's laughter slicing through his skull. Then, the sound of nothing. A silence so total it pressed on his chest until the world blurred. Rion gasped awake. His vision spun. The room looked wrong, too dark, too big, too quiet. He couldn't breathe. "Not again. Not here. Don't fall apart here." His fingers trembled violently as he pressed them to his throat. Air wouldn't go in. His heartbeat thundered like it was trying to escape his ribs. Panic tightened around him like a rope. He didn't know he had made a sound, but Ares heard it. The door burst open. "Rion?" Ares's voice was sharp, controlled, but there was something else in it too, something that sounded dangerously close to fear. Rion tried to speak, but no words came, only a strangled breath. Ares crossed the room in seconds. He didn't touch Rion immediately. He knelt down first, lowering himself to eye level, hands hovering in the air like he was afraid to break him. "It's okay. You're safe. Look at me." Rion couldn't. His eyes were burning. His chest was tight. His vision was swimming. Ares' tone softened, stripped of its usual steel. "Rion, may I touch you?" Rion managed a small, desperate nod. Ares' hand landed gently on his wrist, warm, firm, grounding. Rion's body reacted instantly. Heat shot through him. His pulse jumped. Ares felt it. His brows pulled together. "You're shaking," he whispered. Rion hated the tremor in his own voice. I can't breathe." Ares moved like someone who had done this before. He lifted a glass of water from the nightstand, sliding an arm behind Rion's back, not possessive, not claiming, just steady support. "Small sips," Ares said softly. "Don't rush." Rion obeyed because he had no strength not to. The water hit his tongue, cool and sharp, pulling him back into the present. His breathing eased, just a little. Ares didn't look away from him, not even for a second. His grip on Rion's wrist tightened, as if to anchor him. "You're not alone," Ares said quietly. "Not anymore. I am right here." It shouldn't have meant anything, but it did. It cracked something inside him. Rion's breath hitched, not from panic now, but something softer, more dangerous. Ares noticed at once. He moved an inch closer, his voice dropping to a low murmur. "Rion, talk to me. What do you need?" Rion swallowed, ashamed of how weak he felt. "I just got scared." "Of me?" Ares asked. Rion shook his head instantly. "No, of everything." Ares exhaled, long and slow, as if relieved. Then something happened that neither of them expected. Rion's hand, trembling, seeking warmth, slid forward and brushed against Ares' fingers. Both froze. The spark was instant, a pulse of heat, a pull, an instinctive ache that was not fear. Ares went still as stone. Slowly, carefully, he intertwined their fingers. Not dominated, not claimed, just held. Rion's breathing steadied completely. Ares watched him with an expression he seemed to fight to control. "You don't have to be strong all the time. I can be strong for you." The words hit Rion harder than panic ever had, because no one had ever said them to him. Not his family, not his fiancée, not his so-called best friend. Only this alpha, this cold, controlled alpha who shouldn't care, but did. Ares finally spoke again, voice low. "You're safe with me. I promise." Rion believed him, and that scared him even more, because safety is where love begins, and love was the one thing he had sworn never to feel again. The house was too quiet in the morning. Rion woke slowly, the panic of the night before lingering like a bruise behind his ribs. He stared at the ceiling, trying to steady himself before facing the world again. He expected to be alone. He wasn't. Ares was sitting on the chair beside the bed, coat off, sleeves rolled up, tie discarded. His posture was rigid, but there were faint shadows under his eyes. He hadn't slept. Rion sucked in a breath. "You stayed?" Ares didn't flinch. He simply nodded once. "You were unstable last night." A clinical statement, cold on the surface, but his eyes were warm. Ryan turned his face away, embarrassed. "I didn't want to trouble you." Aries stood. "That wasn't trouble." He said it like a fact, like gravity, like something carved into stone. Ryan tried to sit up, and Aries' hand shot forward instinctively, steadying his shoulder. Ryan froze. Aries did too. Their eyes met. The memory of last night, their hands intertwined, breath shared, hung between them, electric. Aries withdrew his hand slowly, like pulling away from a flame that burned but didn't hurt. He said quietly, "Breakfast is ready. You need to eat." Ryan followed him to the dining room, except dining room was too small a word. It was enormous, with clean marble floors and floor-to-ceiling windows that poured sunlight onto the long table. But Ryan's eyes weren't on the room. They were on Aries. The CEO moved with a kind of controlled power, every step measured, every motion precise. He didn't look back at Ryan, but Ryan could feel the weight of his attention, like a warm hand on his spine. The seat beside Aries was pulled out, not across the table, not far away. Beside him. Ryan blinked. "You want me to sit here?" Aries didn't answer. He simply waited until Ryan sat, then pushed the chair in gently, almost carefully. The intimacy of such a small gesture made Ryan's breath catch. Aries served him first, quietly, without looking at him, but his jaw was tense, as if he had to stop himself from looking too much. "You should eat more," Aries said. "You've lost weight." Ryan stared at him. "How would you know?" Aries hesitated for exactly 1 second. Then, "I notice." Ryan's heart skipped. "You notice me?" Aries didn't blink. "I notice everything that concerns me." The words hung in the air, dark, warm, possessive. Ryan swallowed. He should have pulled away, but instead he whispered, "Do you concern me, Aries?" Aries turned to him fully, slowly, deliberately. His voice dropped into something low and dangerous. "Yes." Just one word, one truth. Ryan felt heat climb up his throat. After breakfast, Ryan helped clear the dishes, out of habit. He picked up a plate, but his wrist shook slightly, residue of last night's panic. Aries stepped forward instantly. "Stop."
"It's fine. I said stop." Aries took the plate from him and set it aside. Then he caught Ryan's wrist again, the same wrist he had held during the panic attack. A soft touch. Careful. Too careful. He lifted it slightly, his thumb brushing the faint tremor. "You're still shaking." Ryan's breath hitched. "I'm okay, really." Aries didn't let go. "You don't have to be." That was the problem. No alpha had ever told him that. His parents told him to endure. His ex-fiancée told him to be grateful. His best friend told him he was too sensitive. But Aries told him he didn't have to pretend. Something inside Ryan cracked again. His voice was small when he spoke. "Why are you being so kind to me?" Aries' eyes darkened slowly, intensely. "This isn't kindness." Ryan's breath caught. Aries leaned in slightly, not touching, not crowding, just close enough that Ryan felt the heat of him. "This is responsibility," Aries said softly. "You're under my name now." A pause. Then his voice dipped even lower. "And I'd take care of what's mine." Ryan's throat tightened around a sudden, overwhelming feeling. He whispered, barely audible, "I don't belong to anyone." Aries didn't back away. He looked at Ryan like he was memorizing him. "Then let me change that." Ryan's knees nearly gave out, but Aries stepped back suddenly, as if he realized he had crossed a line. He cleared his throat, voice returning to its usual coldness. "You need rest." Aries. His tone softened again. "I won't force you. I'll never force you." Ryan blinked, startled by the promise. Aries hesitated, just long enough to reveal it wasn't easy for him to say the next words. "When you want something from me, you will ask." Ryan's face flooded with heat. Ask? Aries' gaze flicked to his lips, barely, for half a second, but Ryan saw it, and so did Aries. He looked away abruptly. Rest, he repeated, his voice strained. Ryan nodded weakly. Aries moved toward the door, but he stopped there, turned his head slightly, and said the words that made Ryan's stomach drop. If you panic again, call my name, even if it's the middle of the night. I'll come. Ryan swallowed hard. Why? Aries didn't turn around, but his voice was raw. Because last night terrified me too. The door closed softly behind him, leaving Ryan trembling for a very different reason.
Rion rarely left the mansion, but this morning he asked the house staff where the garden was. He needed air, warmth, something alive that wasn't pain or worry. He walked slowly down the stone path, touching leaves with a soft, almost shy curiosity. For a moment, he felt almost normal, until someone called his name. Rion? He turned. A young man stood at the gate, one of Aries' company assistants. Friendly face, bright smile. Too bright. "Oh, hi," Rion said quietly. "I'm Minjae. CEO Valtor said to deliver some documents here, but I didn't know—" Minjae's eyes softened. "I didn't know he had someone living with him." Rion felt a small sting of embarrassment. "I'm staying here, just temporarily." "That's good." Minjae stepped closer. "You look healthier than last month. I'm glad." Rion blinked. "You noticed?" Minjae flushed a little. "Well, I see you sometimes when I come to drop files. I always hoped you were okay." It was innocent, but at that exact moment, a cold wind rushed through the garden. Not from the weather, from the presence standing behind them. Aries. Silent. Still. Eyes dark enough to bruise the air. Minjae stiffened. "Oh, CEO Valtor, I didn't know you were—" "You delivered the documents," Aries said in a voice as sharp as winter steel. "You can leave." Minjae bowed rapidly and hurried away, practically running. Rion exhaled slowly. Aries did not move. He just stared at Rion. Too intensely, too quietly. Rion fidgeted. "You're early today." Aries didn't answer. Not for a long, heavy moment. Then, "Do you like him?" Rion's heart stopped. "What?" Aries took a step forward. One, measured, predatory. "Do you like him?" he repeated, voice dangerously calm. Rion swallowed. "Minjae? He's just being nice." Aries' jaw tightened. That was more than nice. Rion blinked. "You're reading too much into—" "Rion." Aries' voice cut through him. "Did his presence make you comfortable?" Rion stepped back instinctively. Aries stepped forward. "Or did it make you feel safe?" Rion stared at him, confused. "Why are you asking like this?" Aries didn't answer immediately. He looked away for just a second, as if wrestling with something, and when he looked back, his eyes were raw, exposed in a way that almost hurt to see. "I didn't like seeing you smile at someone else." Rion froze. His breath stopped, because the way Aries said it, it wasn't territorial anger. It was a confession, low, quiet, almost pained. Rion whispered, "You're my husband on paper, Aries. You don't need to—" "Don't," Aries said sharply. His voice was low, harsh, but cracking beneath the surface. "You live in my house." His voice was a whisper now. "You carry my name." Rion's chest tightened. "But that doesn't matter. What matters is—" He stopped, as if afraid of the next words. What matters? Rion swallowed, voice trembling. Ares lifted his hand slowly, brushing a leaf from Rion's hair. The touch was barely there, soft, hesitant. I don't like sharing what I care about. Rion's breath trembled.
Ares, for the first time, Ares said quietly, someone walked toward you, and I wanted to walk faster. Rion felt heat rush through him. It wasn't desire, it was longing, fear, confusion, and something that felt dangerously close to hope. Ares stepped back suddenly, as if he realized he had gone too far. I shouldn't have said that. Rion took a shaky breath. But you did. Ares looked at him. No, through him. I don't regret it. Rion's heart stumbled. But I won't entrap you with my feelings, Ares continued, voice breaking through the stern facade for the first time. You can talk to anyone you want. Go anywhere you want. I have no right to stop you. Rion whispered, Then why did you come running? Ares closed his eyes for a brief second. Because, he said softly, when I saw you with him, I realized something. Rion's voice was barely audible. What? Ares opened his eyes, and the truth fell between them like a spark catching fire. I want to be the one you turn to. Silence. Then, I want to be the one you trust. Rion felt his pulse race. And I hate, Ares whispered, that someone else got to stand next to you before I did. Rion couldn't breathe, not properly, not with Ares's emotions pressed so close, so unguarded. The alpha who had been cold, composed, unreadable, now looked at him like he was the only fragile thing in the world he wanted to hold gently, desperately, possessively. Rion whispered, Ares. Ares took a deep breath, gathering himself back into steel and restraint. It won't happen again. He turned away. Rion grabbed his sleeve without thinking. Ares froze. Rion's voice shook. Wait. Ares didn't move, didn't breathe. Rion's hand was trembling, but he didn't let go. You weren't wrong, Rion whispered. I didn't like him like that. Ares turned slowly. His eyes burned. Then who, he asked quietly, did you like? Rion's lips parted. He didn't need to. Ares stepped closer, just a fraction, and for the first time, Rion didn't step away.
The room was alive with chatter, clinking glasses in the faint scent of expensive perfume. Rion's chest felt tight, each laugh and toast around him twisting his stomach like a knot. The crowd pressed in, voices blending into a deafening hum that made it impossible to focus. Rion's hand shook as he lifted his glass. The room seemed to tilt, lights blurring. His vision tunneled, and a wave of dizziness washed over him. He tried to steady himself, but the world spun faster. And then, strong hands were on his arms. Before he could protest, Ares had him in his arms, holding him close. I'm right here, Ares whispered, his voice low and grounding. Rion froze, the warmth of Ares' body against him grounding him in a way he hadn't expected. His panic started to ebb, replaced by something strange and soft, a sense of safety, of being seen. For the first time, he let himself lean, let himself fall, not into the world of the crowd, but into Ares's presence. Ares's arms wrapped around him like he was holding something precious, something fragile, and maybe, just maybe, that fragile thing was Rion himself. The chaos of the party faded into the background. All that existed was the solid, unwavering hold of someone who refused to let him crumble. Rion closed his eyes, letting out a shaky breath. His heart, still racing, somehow felt lighter. He realized he had been carrying so much alone, and for the first time, he didn't have to. In that embrace, the world made sense.
Ryan's hands shook as he read the message Aries had handed him. Every word hit like a hammer. The names he had once trusted, his ex, his best friend, weren't just careless or cruel. They had been instruments, puppets for someone else's plan. I don't understand, Ryan whispered, his voice barely audible over the storm in his chest. Why would they? They were paid, Aries said quietly, his jaw tight, eyes dark with controlled anger. Not because they hated you, not because they wanted to hurt you for fun. Someone far more dangerous, someone I've been fighting for years, pulled their strings. Ryan staggered back, the room spinning around him. Memories flashed violently, smiles that felt fake in retrospect, late-night messages he had trusted, laughter that now tasted bitter. The betrayal wasn't personal. It was part of a war he had never seen coming. I was a pawn? Ryan's voice cracked, tears springing to his eyes. The world narrowed to the point of suffocating. Everything? All of it? Was a lie? Aries didn't answer. He stepped forward, slowly, deliberately, and sank to his knees in front of Ryan. His hands wrapped around Ryan's trembling body, pulling him close. No words were spoken, none were needed. The silent strength in Aries' embrace spoke louder than any explanation. Ryan's knees gave way, and he collapsed into Aries' arms, sobbing. The walls he had built around himself, the loneliness he had carried for so long, it all shattered in that moment. He let himself be small, let himself be broken, and for the first time, he let someone else hold the pieces. Aries held him like the world depended on it. Every shudder, every tear, every whisper of pain was met with unwavering presence. Aries didn't have to explain, he didn't have to fight it, he only had to let go. When the storm inside him began to subside, he lifted his head slightly, resting it against Aries' shoulder. Our fates, he whispered, voice hoarse, were always tangled, weren't they? Aries' hand brushed a wet strand of hair from his forehead. Yes, he murmured, and no matter what, I'll face it with you. For the first time since the betrayal, Ryan felt the faintest flicker of hope. He wasn't alone anymore.
The hall was packed with people, a glittering sea of faces, laughter, and clinking glasses. The lights reflected off crystal chandeliers, casting patterns across the polished marble floor. For most, it was just another social gathering, a chance to network, to laugh, to show off. For Ryan, it was a nightmare in full color. His ex, the one who had once promised love but delivered betrayal, had shown up. And worse, he wasn't alone. The people who had once been Ryan's so-called friends now whispered behind raised glasses, glances sharp and judging. Ryan tried to steady his breath, his heart hammering against his ribs like a caged animal. The betrayal still stung, but today was different. Today, he wasn't alone. He straightened his back, pulling his shoulders back. I'm done hiding, he muttered to himself, a quiet mantra that barely left his lips but anchored him nonetheless. And then it began. You really thought you could rise without me noticing? His ex's voice was loud enough to cut through the chatter, dripping with mockery. The words were designed to wound, to remind Ryan of every insecurity he had ever had. Look at you, pretending to be someone important. A chorus of laughs followed, some polite, some cruel. Ryan felt the familiar heat of shame rising in his cheeks, the old instinct to shrink back, to escape. But he didn't, not today. He opened his mouth, ready to speak, to defend himself, when a hand brushed against his shoulder. It was Aries, calm, grounded, but radiating a force that made the room seem smaller. Before Ryan could process, Aries stepped forward, placing himself squarely in front of him. His stance was deliberate, protective, almost predatory. You want to break him? Aries' voice was low, controlled, but every word carried weight. Then you'll go through me first. The room fell silent. Conversations halted mid-sentence, glasses paused mid-air. All eyes were on them, drawn to the sudden intensity between the two men. Ares's gaze was sharp, unyielding, and terrifying in its focus. He wasn't just angry, he was desperate. Desperate not to lose Ryan. Ryan's breath caught. He had never seen this side of Ares before. It wasn't the cool, calculated man he knew from business meetings or casual encounters. It was raw, vulnerable, and utterly terrifying. Not fear of failure, not anger, fear of losing him. Ryan's ex faltered, the sneer fading as he took a step back. What are you doing?" Ares's eyes didn't leave Ryan. "I'm telling you," he said slowly, each word deliberate. "I will not let you touch him. I will not let you hurt him. Do you understand me?" The silence stretched. Whispers flitted through the crowd, some incredulous, some approving, but none daring to interrupt. Ryan's chest tightened, not from fear this time, but from something else entirely. Gratitude, relief, a quiet, burning ache of emotion that he couldn't name. He wanted to reach out, to touch Ares, to feel the solidity of his presence, but he froze, overwhelmed by the intensity of the moment. "You're bluffing," his ex finally spat, though his voice lacked its earlier confidence. "You wouldn't." Ares cut him off, his hand inching slightly, a silent signal that he was ready to escalate if necessary. "I would, and I have no hesitation. You step closer, and you'll regret it. This is your final warning." The room seemed to hold its breath. Even the chandelier's sparkling light felt muted under the weight of tension. Ryan's ex stared, calculating, realizing he was outmatched, not physically, not in terms of power, but emotionally. This wasn't just about strength. This was about attachment, about a bond so deep that no mockery, no insult could break it. Ares's fear of losing Ryan made him formidable in a way the ex had never anticipated. Ryan, still rooted behind Ares, felt a wave of emotion he couldn't suppress. His hands shook, not from fear, but from the overwhelming realization that someone cared so deeply for him. Someone would fight, would stand, would bear the world's weight if it meant protecting him. Ryan tried to speak, but Ares placed a gentle hand on his chest, steadying him. "You don't need to say anything," Ares murmured. His voice softened slightly, though the intensity in his eyes never wavered. "I've got you." Tears pricked at Ryan's eyes, not from humiliation, not from anger, but from the sheer weight of being seen, truly seen, and protected. For so long he had carried the burden of betrayal alone, had hidden his pain behind a carefully constructed facade. And now he didn't have to. The ex's bravado crumbled further, and he finally stepped back, muttering something under his breath before leaving with what little dignity he had left. The whispers in the room resumed, but they felt distant, irrelevant, like background noise to the storm of emotion that Ryan and Ares shared in that moment. Ryan finally allowed himself to move forward, his hands trembling as he reached for Ares. I don't know what to say," he whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Ares replied, lowering his hands to rest gently on Ryan's shoulders. "You're safe. That's enough." Ryan's eyes met Ares, and in that look he saw everything: fear, determination, vulnerability, and an unwavering promise. He leaned slightly into the warmth, letting himself be anchored. "You really would do that for me?" Ryan asked, voice small, unsure. Ares tilted his head, a faint, almost imperceptible smile tugging at his lips. "I will, every time," he said simply. "Every single time. I won't let anyone hurt you. Not ever." Ryan swallowed, his throat tight with emotion. He had never felt so protected, so valued, so seen. It was a new kind of fear now, the fear of losing someone who would become his anchor, someone whose presence made the chaos of the world bearable. The room around them continued its clinking, its laughter, its shallow conversations, but it no longer mattered. Ryan and Ares existed in a bubble of intensity, a world apart where nothing else held weight except the bond that had been forged through betrayal, fear, and trust. For the first time in years, Ryan felt whole. Ares' hands tightened slightly, not forcefully, just enough to remind him of his presence. "You're mine," Ares said, softly, almost a whisper meant only for him. Ryan's breath hitched. "Yours?" he echoed, disbelief and warmth mingling in his chest. "Yes," Ares confirmed, eyes locked at his, "and I'll do whatever it takes to keep you safe. No one will ever take you from me. Do you understand?" Ryan nodded, words failing him as he leaned closer, resting his forehead lightly against Ares'. The world around them could crumble, people could whisper and sneer, betrayals could resurface. But in that moment, Ryan knew one unshakable truth. He was protected, cherished, and never alone again. And Ares wasn't just his protector. He was the one who made him feel alive, seen, and worth fighting for. As the murmurs in the hall grew distant, Ryan closed his eyes, allowing himself to savor the safety and warmth. The fear of betrayal, the sting of past wounds, the uncertainty of the world, all of it was held at bay by the unyielding presence of the man in front of him. No words were needed, no declarations were necessary. The bond they shared spoke louder than any insult, louder than any threat. And for the first time, Ryan truly understood what it meant to belong, completely, irrevocably to someone who would fight, without hesitation, to protect what was his.
Ryan avoided him. It started subtly, shorter conversations, excuses about work, stepping back when Ares came too close. Ares noticed immediately. His instincts were too sharp, too alpha, too attuned to Ryan's every breath. At first, Ares waited. He gave Ryan space. He softened his presence. He tried not to cage him in with concern. But day by day, the distance grew, like a slow, freezing tide pulling Ryan away from him. Ryan wasn't running out of anger. He wasn't running out of resentment. He was running because he cared. Too much, too quickly, too helplessly. And that terrified him. Ryan stood in the kitchen long after midnight, hands trembling around a glass of water. The quiet house felt too loud, his thoughts too sharp, his heart too fragile. "I can't do this again. Not again. Not with someone I could lose." He had already lived through betrayal, with someone he trusted, someone he believed would protect him. That wound still pulsed inside him, a scar that never fully healed. Ares was different. Ares was gentle in ways he didn't expect, protective in ways he didn't know how to accept, kind in ways that made Ryan's chest ache. And that was the problem. The kinder Ares was, the more Ryan wanted him. The more he wanted him, the more he feared losing him. His fingers tightened around the glass. "I can't fall again," he whispered to the empty room. "I can't survive it a second time." He didn't hear the footsteps behind him, didn't feel the shift in the air until a soft voice broke the silence. "Ryan." He stiffened. Slowly he turned. Ares stood in the doorway, barefoot, hair messy from sleep, eyes heavy with worry. He didn't look powerful or intimidating. He looked scared, not of Ryan, but for him. "You're avoiding me," Ares said quietly. Ryan dropped his gaze. "I'm just tired." "That isn't the truth." Ryan's breath faltered, his throat burned, his instincts screamed to run, but his body stayed rooted to the spot. Ares stepped closer, not too close, but close enough that Ryan could feel the warmth of him. "Tell me," he said. "Please." Ryan swallowed hard, his voice cracked. "Don't be kind to me." Ares froze. "Ryan, I mean it. Rian whispered, words trembling. "Don't be gentle. Don't protect me. Don't look at me like I matter." Eris took a breath, slow and controlled, as if absorbing each painful word. "Why?" Rian's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. He shook his head helplessly. "Because I'll break. I'm already breaking, and I can't take it again. I can't fall for someone only to lose them or watch them change." His voice cracked at the end, the fear bleeding through every syllable. Eris moved, finally closing the distance, but carefully, like approaching a frightened animal. He lifted a hand, hesitated, and gently touched Rian's wrist. Rian didn't pull away this time. Eris's voice dropped to a whisper, warm enough to melt steel. "Then break in my hands." Rian's breath hitched. Eris stepped closer still, letting their foreheads touch. His scent softened, enveloping Rian in warmth and steady strength. "I'll hold every piece, every fear, every scar, every part of you that someone else broke." Rian's eyes closed as a tear finally escaped. Eris's thumb brushed it away immediately, not with pity, but with devotion. "You don't have to trust me all at once. Just let me stay. Let me be here. Let me learn your fears. Let me earn your love." Rian trembled. His heart betrayed him, aching toward the man holding him with such terrifying gentleness. "Eris." His voice cracked, fragile as thin glass, and Eris, strong, controlled, composed Eris, cupped Rian's cheeks with both hands, holding him like he was the most precious thing in the world. "You won't lose me," he whispered. "I'm not going anywhere." The last of Rian's strength crumbled. He didn't fall to the floor. He fell into Eris. And Eris caught him instantly, arms wrapping around him like a promise carved into the bones of the night. Rian buried his face in Eris's chest, shaking. "I'm scared," he admitted, the confession barely a breath. "I know," Eris murmured, pressing a soft kiss to the top of his head. "I'm scared too." Rian pulled back slightly, surprised. "You? What could you be scared of?" Eris looked at him with an honesty that stripped him bare. "I'm scared of losing you before I get the chance to love you the way you deserve." Rian's heart clenched, and for the first time, instead of running from the fear, he let it pull him closer. Because maybe falling didn't have to be destruction. Maybe falling into someone's hands could be safety. And with Eris, it felt like the safest place he had ever been.
The room was silent, except for the quiet rhythm of their breathing. The world outside had faded. No lights, no noise, no judgment, just the space between them, electric and charged. Ares stood close, his hand still brushing against Rian's cheek, thumb tracing the line of his jaw. His eyes searched Rian's, dark and intense, like he was trying to memorize every inch before daring to cross the line he had resisted for so long. Rian's heart pounded painfully in his chest. Every nerve screamed, every instinct pleaded with him to pull away, but something deep inside him held him rooted, waiting, craving. Ares's voice was low, almost a whisper, trembling slightly despite his usual control. "Ares." Rian's breath caught. He felt the tremor in Ares' body, the subtle hesitation in his hands, the almost painful longing in his gaze. Ares leaned in slowly, as if the world might shatter if he moved too quickly. His lips hovered, just brushing against Rian's, testing, hesitating, fearing that the fragile trust between them might vanish in an instant. And then, gently, impossibly slow, he pressed his lips to Rian's. It wasn't urgent, it wasn't rushed, it was a careful, trembling kiss, as if he were afraid that Rian might disappear if he wasn't careful. Rian's knees nearly gave out. He melted into the warmth, the safety, the impossibly tender strength of Ares.
Every doubt, every fear, every lingering pain seemed to dissolve under the pressure of that single deliberate kiss. Ares' hands cradled Rion's face, thumbs brushing tears he didn't know he had shed. His lips moved against Rion's in soft, searching motions, a silent question. "Are you mine? Can I stay?" Rion couldn't stop himself. His hands rose, threading through Ares' hair, pulling him closer, deepening the kiss. Every touch, every press of lips against lips was a release of longing years in the making. Between breaths, Ares whispered, almost breaking, "Tell me to stop if it's too much." Rion shook his head, voice breaking, barely a whisper. I can't." That was all the permission Ares needed. He kissed him again, softer this time, almost as if he were memorizing every part of Rion's face, every shiver, every sigh. Rion pressed his forehead to Ares, eyes closed, heart hammering like a drum. The walls he had built around himself, the fears of loving and losing, dissolved in the heat of the moment. "I've wanted this for so long," Ares murmured against his lips, each word trembling with honesty. Rion's hands tightened on Ares' shoulders. "Me too," he whispered back. I've always wanted this." Ares' lips curved into a faint, almost relieved smile. "Then we don't have to hide anymore," he said softly. "We can be us." Rion tilted his head, pressing another kiss to Ares' mouth. It was no longer tentative, no longer fearful. It was a kiss of surrender, of trust, of a bond forged through pain, protection, and undeniable love. For the first time, they didn't worry about what came next. There was only this first kiss, this first surrender, this first undeniable confirmation that they belonged to each other. And as the night wrapped around them, warm and quiet, Rion realized falling in love didn't have to hurt, not when it was with someone willing to catch every piece of him. Ares held him close, whispering promises without words, and Rion let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, this was forever.
The evening sky was painted in shades of gold and amber. The city bathed in the soft glow of the setting sun. Rion sat on the balcony, knees pulled to his chest, watching the horizon with a quiet, contemplative gaze. The world felt lighter somehow, safer, still fragile, still uncertain, but bearable. Ares approached quietly, his steps soft on the wooden floor. He leaned against the railing beside Rion, not touching him immediately, giving him space, yet radiating warmth that was impossible to ignore. "You're quiet," Ares murmured. His voice was low, intimate, carrying an undertone of something Rion had been afraid to hope for, sincerity and desire and love. Rion shrugged lightly, still staring at the skyline. I just don't know what to feel sometimes. Everything's so fast, and his voice faltered. "I'm scared I'll ruin it." Ares turned to him fully then, eyes glinting in the fading sunlight. "Rion," he said, and the use of his name made Rion's chest tighten. "Listen to me carefully. You could never ruin this. Not us. Not ever." Rion blinked, overwhelmed by the intensity in Ares' eyes. "But what if I get scared? What if I run?" Ares took a slow breath, then reached out, brushing a hand against Rion's cheek. The touch was feather-light, reverent. "Then I'll be here to stop you, not to trap you, to protect you. And if you ever fall, I'll catch you, every time. No questions, no conditions." Rion's heart thudded painfully in his chest. You mean that?" "I mean every word." Ares stepped closer, until their foreheads nearly touched. His voice dropped to a whisper, trembling slightly, not with fear, but with something deeper. "I love you, Rion. I've loved you since the moment I realized you weren't just someone to protect. You're the person I want, the person I need. Not because I'm an alpha, not because I feel I have to, but because I can't imagine my life without you.
You're mine, and I'm yours, forever, if you let me." Ryan's breath hitched. His chest felt tight, overwhelmed by emotions he had tried to suppress for so long. Fear, hope, longing, love. Tears pricked the corners of his eyes as he whispered, I love you too. I've been scared, but I can't hide it anymore." Ares's lips curved into the faintest, most genuine smile, relief and happiness shining through the shadow of all the battles they had faced. He lifted his hand, tucking a stray strand of hair behind Ryan's ear, thumb brushing tenderly against his cheek. "You have no idea how long I've waited to hear that," Ares murmured. "I've waited for you to trust me, to let me in, and now that you have, I swear I'll never let anything or anyone hurt you again." Ryan reached out, fingers trembling slightly, and placed a hand over Ares. The contact was electric, grounding, and comforting all at once. "I trust you," he said softly. I'm yours." Ares's eyes glistened, dark with emotion, as he leaned in slowly. "Forever?" he whispered, barely brushing his lips against Ryan's. "Forever," Ryan breathed back. This time there was no hesitation, no fear, no trembling. Their lips met in a kiss that was confident, tender, and all-consuming. A kiss that spoke of everything they had survived, the betrayals, the fears, the danger, and everything they had yet to share. Ares's hands cupped Ryan's face, holding him close, while Ryan's arms wrapped around Ares's neck, anchoring himself to the one person who would become his home. Pulling back slightly, Ares rested his forehead against Ryan's, voice low and steady. "No matter what comes next, no matter the storms or the enemies, I'll always choose you. Always. And I'll choose you," Ryan whispered, closing his eyes and letting himself finally surrender to love without fear. They stayed like that, wrapped in each other's arms, watching the sun dip below the horizon. The world outside could wait. The past, with all its scars and pain, was behind them. Ahead was something new, a future built on trust, love, and the unshakable bond they had forged in fire and fear. And in that moment, Ryan realized he was no longer terrified of falling, because falling with Ares meant flying forever.